Hey, Mr. Rogers.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm well, Mr. Lang.
I'm doing well too. I'm
Okay.
glad you're here. So I want to show you a prompt that I gave my students last week, and I want to show you a couple of responses. I thought
Okay.
we could have maybe a good discussion over their responses, and maybe everyone who's watching can get a little bit better at writing.
Yes.
Right?
So we hope that you take what you see and you improve and you think, how would I write?
Mhm.
Would I write a sentence like that?
Right.
And if I do, how can I make it better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the prompt. It says, I hear and I forget. That's true.
Yeah.
I see and I remember. I do and I understand.
Yeah.
It's an ancient Chinese proverb.
Mm.
Now, what does that mean? What do you think?
Someone who was Chinese, of just Chinese descent,
Yes.
a long, long, long time ago said that. And it
Yes.
stuck with people.
Right. What does it mean, though? Any
Well,
idea?
I think about that if I'm a student, right?
Mhm.
If someone just tells me something once, I forget it. I have to write things down,
Right.
And if I see it because I've written it down, then I'll definitely remember it.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily get what it's talking about or understand it,
Yeah.
right? So if someone's saying like, this is how you print
Drive a car.
and
Yeah.
I'm writing down all the steps
Yeah.
to drive a car, right?
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
going to know how to do it unless I physically get in a car and start driving.
Right. It's just like anything. Like any of you that play sports, do you learn to play soccer better by watching people play soccer, by reading about people playing soccer, or by playing soccer, right?
Right?
Okay, so we got the quote, and then it says, in Mr. Smith's science class, the teacher, I guess, does not lecture very often. So he doesn't talk to the class very often. Instead, students spend most of their class time conducting science experiments and collecting and analyzing the data from them.
Oh, can we break that down
Please.
before we move on?
Please.
So here's a tip.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they should write this down instead of seeing and watching. Maybe they should write down.
You should write it down. Take some notes.
Okay. Number 1 is after every chunk. So the quote, after the prompt, make some notes and write things down. Okay.
First, take some notes.
Take some notes.
After the prompt?
Yep.
After you read the prompt.
Yes.
Okay.
So write to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's doing. Okay.
Okay.
So Mr. Smith, so I'm a student in Mr. Smith's science class.
Okay.
And he doesn't lecture. Well, that's kind of cool. He doesn't just stand up there and just talk.
Page 87.
I have to write down.
Page 88.
That's a lot of teachers do that.
Yes.
Okay. Instead, students spend most of their class time conducting science experiments. Doing science.
Wait a minute. Synonyms, right? I do.
There we go.
I conduct.
Yeah.
There's a connection. So if you get a prompt like this during a Zella, right, make a connection, right? Because there's going to be some connection between the story and the quote.
Right. And
Okay.
on AZ Merit as well, another test they might have to take.
AZ Merit 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So Mr. Smith does the science experiment, or the students do science experiments and collect data and analyze the data from them. So they're physically doing science.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
They're making observations that they see after completing each experiment.
Okay, I understand.
I do too.
Okay, next.
All right. In an expository paragraph, explain how the Chinese proverbs words are being lived out by the students in Mr. Smith's science class.
Okay, so we're going to connect the quote. So the quote better be in the paragraph that you write.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you better talk about Mr. Smith and his science class and his students.
Yes.
And put them together. Now, expository.
Explain. We're
and
exposing.
It says.
What's in that heart of yours? Expose your heart.
Okay. Right.
I guess.
But it says also, even if you don't remember what expository means, it says explain.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Synonyms again. Expose, explain.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So now we have to have a topic sentence,
Mhm.
supporting details, and a conclusion.
All right.
And we have to write a paragraph.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We can do it.
Yes.
All right. So what Mrs. Rogers and I decided to do is show you two examples. These are actual paragraphs that students wrote for me
I have an
last
idea.
week. Yes, please.
Let's read it and
Okay.
have them make 3 bullet points of things that can be improved. Let's pretend that they're the teacher
I
reading
love
this
it.
the first time.
I love it. Okay.
Okay.
I love it. All right. Do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So listen closely, follow along, and after we're done, we're gonna pause,
Mhm.
and for 3 minutes you're gonna write.
Yeah. In fact, I can share this document with everyone.
I think that's a good
yeah,
idea.
That's a great idea.
Okay. And then we'll go back over and you can see what we said about it.
Perfect.
Okay. Students in Mr. Smith's class spent most of their class time conducting science experiments and collecting and analyzing the data from them. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Mr. Smith does not lecture very often because his students spend more class time collecting and analyzing every day. One of Mr. Smith's students came in late, comma, capital O.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
No, you shouldn't say that.
So he asked Mr. Smith what they had to do. Mr. Smith answered him, "Look what your classmates are doing, and you will get an idea and know what you have to do for the rest of the class." He looked and found out that his classmates are experiments and collecting and analyzing the data from conducting science. The next day he came in late again. But he didn't ask Mr. Smith what he had to do because he remembered what he saw his classmates were doing. Students in Mr. Smith's class does and understand what they are doing. Mr. Smith's students always have A's because they do their work and they do what they understand. Last year, Mr. John's students were failing his class because they were faking their work and they didn't understand what they were doing. So they failed Mr. John's text almost every day. But one day they decided to ask Mr. John for help, and he helped them. So they stopped faking their work. Finally, some of Mr. John's students started to pass his texts. Clearly, Mr. Smith does not put your phone down.
I was texting. Sorry.
Clearly, Mr. Smith does not lecture very often because his students see and remember what they have to work on. And Mr. Smith's students always pass his class because they do and understand what they are doing. Okay, we're not talking. I know we want to, but put on a 3-minute timer, Mr. Lang, and you students write 3 changes
Yep,
you think should be made to the paragraph. Right now. 1, 2, 3. Right. You. Over here. Let's put it on a
Should I
timer.
actually set my? Oh, you can do that.
No,
yeah.
watch this.
Yeah.
It's like
Google.
watch.
Has one.
Google. Timer.
Oh, teamway. Since we're making fun of each other.
Here, we'll give them 2.5.
Yeah, because
we're talking.
we're wasting time.
Shh. We're talking too much. Okay. We should play music.
That's hours, not hours. We want minutes.
But I don't know how to do it. Can you do it? Hey, just click on the 2.
Okay. 2 minutes. And 15 seconds.
Okay.
1 minute. Dorks.
Nine,
8.
7, 6,
Oh.
5,
Mm.
4,
Excuse me.
3, 2, 1.
Oh. Ah!
That's
we
obnoxious.
need to go to the parking lot, I guess, huh? All right, let's talk. Let's talk.
Okay,
3 changes you think should be made to the paragraph.
let's go to the beginning of the paragraph.
Yeah, that's what bothered me the most.
Okay.
Students in Mr. Smith's class.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
First of all,
First of all,
is there a topic sentence? Students in Mr. Smith's class spend most of their time conducting science experiments and collecting and analyzing the data. That is not a topic sentence.
No.
Because the prompt says, explain how the Chinese proverbs are being lived in the class. They have to be together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in my topic sentence, and you might disagree with me, I would probably acknowledge the quote. I would actually requote the quote.
Yes,
Yeah,
I would do that.
Okay.
And
then explain it.
Yeah.
So requote the quote. Okay. And that's where we have the quotation marks. Okay. So if we look up here, I wonder if I should make a copy of this right now.
I think you should write in a different color.
Okay.
I think you should just start at the beginning, choose a different color.
Okay.
Okay. And then I think
Teacher
you should
red.
write teacher red. I think
Okay.
you should make a brand new topic sentence right now.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Let me do that. Here, I'm going to do it right here.
Okay. And they can't cut and paste on Azella, correct? They have to retype everything.
You have to retype everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. So I might say something like this. Do you like according to?
I love according
Oops.
to.
Do you like it when I spell it correctly? Okay. According to a Chinese proverb. I could say ancient Chinese proverb. I don't know that it's ancient, but I assume it is.
Quote.
Comma quote. So comma. Learn this, guys. Quotation mark, and then everything. I hear and I forget.
Period.
I see and I remember.
Period.
Remember. Period. I do and I understand. Period.
Okay. Now we don't have to say an ancient Chinese proverb because you said that in the beginning.
Yeah. So really, I'm showing whoever is grading me that I can change the word order around a little bit. Okay. This is the only part that's going to be in quotation marks. So I'm really bothered down here that it says students in Mr. Smith's. Who's saying that? Nobody's saying that.
Right.
Okay. So that this person is really showing the world that he's really confused and probably needs another year of ELL.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't want that, right? So
No.
learn it now. Okay. So I've been instructing my students to repeat the quote like this and then explain it. So I like the phrase in other words. Do you like that?
Yes.
Okay. If someone hears information, he or she might forget it. Okay. If he sees it or reads it, I guess, reads about it, he or she remembers. I'll do a fanboy because I love fanboys. Okay, and whoops.
What's up?
Why is it capitalizing?
No, I think you pressed.
Did I press something?
Yeah.
Shoot.
What the heck?
That is so weird.
Okay, look at the upper left-hand corner. What is this all about?
I don't know.
No.
Starfall?
Oh my gosh. Did I just ruin everything?
I don't think so. Weird. Here, let me pause this real quick. We'll be right back in just a moment.
It's on shift up. Try it. Recording.
Hey, and we're back.
Okay, good.
Mrs. Rogers fixed everything, so that's wonderful. All right. So
he or she remembers, comma, and
that's what I was trying to write. Okay. And if what were we talking about? If I
do it
right. If a student, is that what I said? If a person, okay, if a person does something
like in Mr. Smith's class.
Yeah, and I'm not going to mention Mr. Smith's class yet.
Okay,
because we haven't mentioned that in the paragraph. He or she, what was it? Understands it. Here, I'm going to use another word. Comprehends.
Ooh. Good synonym.
Now, if you can play with the synonyms, extra ice cream for you. He or she comprehends it. Okay.
So, according to a Chinese proverb, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand.
In other words, if someone okay, and then what are we going to do? We're going to go back to the prompt, and we're going to re-explain what happens here, because you can never assume that whoever is grading your essay has read the prompt.
Right.
Okay. So I might say something like this. Let's get it right. Okay. The students, how about the fortunate students?
Ooh, adjectives are very good. Anytime you can describe the noun, even better in your writing.
Now, what's another word for fortunate? I would go with lucky.
Yeah.
The lucky students, the fortunate students. Okay. The fortunate students in Mr. Smith's science class. What about them?
They have the opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Have the amazing opportunity. I could say that too. The opportunity to conduct science experiments
instead of just listening to lectures.
Listening to not just lectures, boring lectures.
Good.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we have to do is a little bit of connecting.
Okay. So let's go down to the
other. Let me go back to this one. All right.
Right.
So I see. I remember. So he's got the quote. He or she has the quote. He doesn't finish the quote because it was I see and I remember.
I do. I understand.
He forgot. I hear and I forget.
Okay.
So this is just very, very confusing as a reader. Okay. Mr. Smith does not lecture very often. That's true because his students spend more class time collecting and analyzing every day.
Analyzing every day.
Yeah. And by the way, every day is 2 words.
Okay. And analyzing what?
Analyzing experiments every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this one, were you confused like I was? He talks about a student that comes in late and then he just kind of jumps into the experiments.
Right. So I think the intention was good, which is great. But if you can't communicate that through your writing, you're not going to pass the Zella. So he was giving an anecdote or a story to show his example.
And the stories really have to strengthen your main idea.
Right.
Okay? So I could see having a story about maybe someone who gets very distracted easily. So if the teacher is talking, he or she can't really concentrate. But when he or she is actually doing things with his hands, with her hands, then she actually learns, and maybe that person becomes a scientist. Or you know what I mean? So the person learns it so well, he doesn't just pass tests, he actually gets a career out of it.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't think the story helped them at all because I felt that they weren't answering the question.
Yeah.
And the question, what I mean by that is it says, explain how the Proverbs words are being lived.
Yeah.
So that wasn't explained.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that there's much we can do with this. I'm just going to talk about some of the little things that I found.
Yes, please.
Okay, right? Like this one.
Mm-hmm. So let's.
I'm going to just color that red right now.
Okay.
Okay, so what would you say to a student that
I would
does
say that
this?
you do not capitalize after a comma.
Mm-hmm.
You only capitalize after a period. So
Right.
you have choices.
Unless it's a proper noun.
True.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yes. One of Mr. Smith's students came in late. So it's either period or comma, lowercase s for so.
Yeah. Now are you happy?
Yes.
I'm not happy.
Wait. So he asked Mr. Smith what they had to do. Oh,
Yeah.
space.
My goodness, you guys, spaces. Look at right
You're
here.
right.
Look
You're
right
right.
here. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Little things that drive me nuts.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm gonna move this back just so I don't mess it up.
Okay.
A little bit later. So this is how it was. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
He asked Mr. Smith what they had to do. Mr. Smith answered him. Up, space. Don't put a space between the quote and look.
Right. And then should we capitalize it? Capitalize the L and look?
Yes.
Yeah. Because for Mr. Smith, this is a new sentence for him. And so we capitalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also in American English, the period goes on the inside.
Yes.
Okay.
And you will get an idea and know what you have to. Wait, you moved it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have to do for the rest of the class.
Okay, so that to me is not a correct sentence.
And you will get an idea and know what you have.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Smith is still talking.
Oh.
Right?
Which is a problem because you ended the quote.
Yeah. This end quote, what does that signify to the reader?
That Mr. Smith is done talking.
But this seems like something that Mr. Smith is still saying.
Okay.
So we need to take that out.
And you will get an idea
and then
know what you. Okay.
And then I would put it there.
He looked around. He who? Mr. Smith or the student?
I think it's the student.
It is
so
the
I'd probably
student.
say the student.
You can't use the pronoun, correct?
Right. If the pronoun could be confusing to the reader, then don't use a pronoun. Use an actual noun. So the student. But again, I mean, fixing this is great, but it's still not a very good example.
Correct.
Right?
Okay, highlight that in red so you know later to fix that. Okay.
Okay, and anything else glaring at you?
Let's see. We definitely have at least 3. Okay, who the heck is Mr. John? I was so confused.
Okay, so I think Mr. Smith has a colleague named Mr. John.
Okay.
And Mr. John lectures all the time, and so all the students are confused.
Okay, and
and actually that's kind of powerful. That
is if it
works,
was
if it were explained a little bit better.
Right.
Okay, and not just that the students are faking their work. They're failing because they don't understand, because all Mr. John does is talk and talk and talk.
Okay. So they stop faking their work. Oh, to pass his texts.
Yeah, that's why I pulled out my phone. I was trying to be
tests.
funny. Yeah.
TESTS. So that's spelled, and again, even if they can figure out and know what you mean, you got it wrong. This is not. Can we clearly say that this paragraph would not pass as LL?
I think so.
Okay.
It wouldn't get a 0. It wouldn't get 1. It would get 2 points probably out of 5. Maybe 3, which is passing. But I cannot confidently say that this one would pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I think maybe because of time.
Yeah.
Let's read the next one.
Let's do it.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. So this one, in my humble opinion, is a better example.
Okay.
All right. Would you like to read?
I can read this again. What are we going to have the students do? Are they going to find? How about this time? They just say one quick thing because we're running out of time here. Yeah. So let's just have them. We're going to read it. We're going to give them 30 seconds to write one really good thing. What could you take from this paragraph
Takeaway.
and use?
I like it.
One takeaway.
Love it.
Okay.
All right.
As an ancient Chinese proverb intelligently said, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. In other words, human beings can hear something and forget everything that was said or asked of them. Whenever we see something, we can remember it, even though we have already forgotten it. And forgotten it. And we can also do different things and understand them. Can't we?
We can.
Since the teacher in Mr. Smith's science class doesn't teach very often as other teachers do, students in his class spend plenty of their time in that class using old notes, so they could picture or remember what they were supposed to do on the new science experiment given to them. For instance, a student in Mr. Smith's science class might use a note that he or she wrote when the teacher once told the class to write notes. That way, a student can use his or her note instead of asking the science teacher. And that teacher would probably start noticing that he has to teach the class carefully. So whenever he doesn't want to teach the class, he can just tell them to use their notes. That teacher teaching the class carefully would also help students concentrate more
than often
while taking notes, because they will know in any day the teacher will not
answer their questions.
Will not answer their questions and just let them use their notes. Just like an ancient Chinese proverb stated, truly, when people do something, they can forget it. In order for them to remember what they have forgotten, they have to look up.
They have to look.
No. They have to look up in or at a calendar, notebook, or maybe a diary. A diary. If they think they wrote something in it. Okay, so there are good things about this paragraph. 30 seconds, write one thing, put that below.
Yeah.
One takeaway, something that you liked that you could use in your writing. And I'm counting.
You lie. Paragraph.
Halfway done. Four, three, two, one. Okay.
All right.
What do you like about the paragraph?
Well, I like that it's organized very well. Like right at the beginning, we learn about the quote, and a little bit later we learn about the situation. And I think that the person has done a pretty good job explaining. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the person totally understands the quote. And there was a lot about taking notes.
Yeah.
And you may have been, whoever you are, you may have been missing the point a little bit, but I really think that whoever is grading this would totally forgive you.
Yes.
Because I think you have a lot of good reasoning behind it. And they do understand that English is not your first language.
So I really like the topic sentence and the concluding sentence because that's what we remember.
Yeah.
I would read this as a grader and say, oh, wow. Okay, they got this. And then the example is a little unclear, but because at the very end they brought it back together, I would forgive them for the middle little part where it was.
And if you're confused about that, there's a lot about taking notes. Usually people take notes when they either read or they listen to a lecture.
Yeah.
It sounds like this teacher just says, okay, we're going to do this experiment, do it. Do that experiment, do it. Do that experiment, do it.
You're not taking notes in Mr. Smith's class.
Yeah.
Okay. I also like their transitions. Look at that. Can you go up a little bit?
Like whenever? You see that semicolon?
Yes.
on sale at Walmart.
I love the semicolon.
Yeah.
I also really like for instance at the bottom. For instance,
Yeah.
a student that's a really nice.
I like this one. Can't we? Can't we? Yeah. We can. It's a rhetorical.
It's a
right?
rhetorical question.
It's like you're speaking directly to the reader, and the reader's going, "We can." Right?
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful.
Okay. Let's see what else. I like truly. When people do something, they can forget it. So that's the last sentence that starts with truly.
Mm-hmm.
Cito.
Yeah, clearly, indeed, truly, obviously.
Yep. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, this one would pass.
Okay.
Right. And remember, when you do the paragraph, they understand that you're under pressure. They understand that English is not your first language. But if you can just organize things as best as you can, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay. Check, recheck, triple check. Okay.
Okay.
Please let Mrs. Rogers or I know if you have any questions, especially about this first paragraph and what to do with the quotes. Okay, because it's important. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Keep working. Work hard.